So I've been meditating for almost 9 years now, and for most of that time, I was what you might call intensely dedicated. Or if I was just being completely honest with you, a total perfectionist. But here's the weird thing. All that dedication, all that discipline, all that trying to perfect my technique, that was actually blocking my transformation. Because the harder I tried, the less I got. And so what I discovered is that meditation isn't about perfecting the technique at all. But it's about something completely different that nobody talks about. And it's the art of getting out of your own way. And once I understood this, everything changed. Because I had this whole routine back then, like perfect meditation chair, perfect posture, every morning wake up at 4 a.m. And I would actually get upset if someone interrupted my meditation or I couldn't complete my full hour. And so I was that kind of like that guy at the gym who spends more time adjusting his, gloves, checking his form in the mirror, than actually lifting the weights. Like all technique, zero flow, or he's like not focusing on his muscles, contracting his muscles. And so I was convinced that if I could just perfect my technique, if I could just get it exactly right, then I would have this massive breakthrough. I would be like the people in the testimonials. The enlightenment would come, my manifestations would flow, money would rain from the air. Everything else would fall into place. So I pushed, I tried, I analyzed, I even judged myself consistently as well. Constantly. And if you've been in this path for a while, pushing yourself to get it right, following every instruction to the letter, judging your practice as good or bad, I just want to say I see you, because I was you. And you understand all the concepts intellectually, you're doing the practice diligently, but something just still feels forced. Like you're trying to squeeze transformation out of your meditation instead of allowing it to unfold naturally. And so, over the years that I've been meditating, I've actually immersed myself in this work, like studied with multiple teachers, attended retreats, like more than just Joe retreats, every type of retreat you can think of. Spent thousands of hours in meditation, and I've also worked with hundreds of clients who were actually stuck in the same perfectionist trap that I was. So what I'm about to share isn't just theory, but it's what finally broke me and my clients through years of frustration as well. And so I do want to show you the exact shift that transformed my meditation practice from an exhausting effort to an effortless unfolding. And it's not about adding more techniques, but it's about understanding the foundational principle that makes meditation actually work. So, take some notes down and put them in the comments, please. I love reading your guys' comments. I first want to talk about the perfectionist trap. This is that frustrating place where you are trying so hard to get it right that you actually block every experience that you're seeking. And I was that guy who, would try to fall asleep by concentrating really, really hard on falling asleep because I knew I had something the next day. But think about it, the more you try hard to fall asleep, the more awake you become. And I remember one morning in particular, my alarm was set at 4 a.m. as usual, and I prepared everything the night before. But that morning, I just couldn't settle. Like my mind was racing, it was going crazy. My neighbor's dogs was barking like so early in the morning. And instead of just accepting these things as part of the experience, I got frustrated, like progressively frustrated. By the end of the hour, I was more stressed than I actually started. And so what happened? Well, I spent the rest of the day feeling like a failure because I had a bad meditation. I was so caught up in doing it right that I completely missed the point. And I realized I was meditating to check a box, to feel accomplished, to say I'd done it perfectly, right? Not to actually be present with whatever was arising. Which brings me to another mistake that I was making, which was how my determination to get it right was actually creating subtle tension that blocked my progress. Because even though I was relaxed in meditation, I thought I was relaxed in meditation. However, there was this underlying current of effort, like a subtle gripping. And it was barely perceptible tension in my jaw. It was like a slight tension in my shoulders and my mind as well. And so it's like trying to be relaxed in a photo when someone says, look, act natural. It's like, oh, okay. And then suddenly you're like, okay, you're hyper aware of your face. And so you become even more unnatural looking. So that's what my meditation had become. A performance of relaxation rather than actual relaxation. Pretending to be present rather than actual presence, being present. So what's really happening when we get caught in this perfectionist trap? Hey, what's up, my friend? Kevin here. Just a quick heads up for all the entrepreneurs and professionals watching this. If you have been feeling stuck, but you know you're capable of more, I've got a few spots open right now for my one-on-one mentorship. In this program, I'll personally guide you through my identity frequency mapping process to break through the patterns holding you back so you can create the results that you've been chasing. Whether that's more income, more freedom to spend time with your loved ones, or finally living the life that you've envisioned for so long. Now, I can only work with a handful of clients at a time to give you my full attention, and spots tend to actually go very quickly. So if you are interested in making the shift now, then please click on the link below this video, book a call, and let's see if we're a good fit to work together. Now back to the video. Well, why does trying harder actually move us further from our goals? And what's the alternative to perfectionism? Okay. Well, doesn't that mean giving up our practice? No. The answer lies in understanding the paradox at the heart of meditation. Because this all started when I discovered something counterintuitive, and it was trying less created more profound results. Crazy, right? Trying less created more profound results. But then when I did that, something happened that disrupted my perfect meditation practice. And there was one time I had to fly to Japan for a trip, and then suddenly I'm dealing with a 14-hour time difference, sleeping in random places, just grabbing meals whenever I can, and my perfect meditation routine was completely shattered. And for the first few days, I was anxious about missing my practice. I felt guilty. On top of everything else, I felt like I was failing spiritually too. And so I was emotionally exhausted. And there was one time I'd find myself sitting in a cafeteria chair, and I just closed my eyes for a moment because I was just so exhausted. No timer, no perfect posture, no even technique, no meditation. Just me sitting there with my eyes closed, completely surrendered to the moment. And in that perfect, messy, human experience, I experienced profound presence. But it makes no sense, right? I'm sleep deprived, stressed, sitting in a cafeteria. These aren't optimal meditation conditions. But something happened when I stopped trying to do it perfectly, and I had this no choice just to let go of control. This is actually supported by neuroscience, because when we are in a state of trying and effort, our sympathetic nervous system equals our fight or flight response is subtly activated, which creates tension in the body and narrows our focus to problem-solving mode. Like, how can I perfect this problem of meditation? But meditation requires to be in parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. This is a state where we are open, we are receptive, able to access deeper states of consciousness. And it gets even crazier because the more we try to force ourselves into a meditative state, the more we activate the very system that prevents that state. It's like trying to force yourself to relax. It just creates more tension. Which leads me to another mistake that I was making, or another shift, which was embracing the wisdom of not knowing. And for years, for the longest time, I thought I needed to be an expert at meditation. Read all the books, taken all the courses, practiced all the techniques. I thought I knew what meditation was supposed to feel like, what I was supposed to experience. How arrogant of me, right? But all of that knowing was actually limiting my experience. It was creating expectations, judgments, comparisons. It was keeping me in my analytical mind instead of allowing me to drop into direct experience. When I was forced to let go of my routine in Japan, I also let go of my expectations, right? I had no idea what meditation would be like in those circumstances. Now, not knowing opened me to an entirely new dimension of experience. It's like when you visit it's like the difference between visiting a new city with an itinerary where it's packed versus wandering without a map. When you think you know exactly what you're going to see and do, you miss the unexpected treasures that aren't in the guidebook. So, when I came back from Japan, I couldn't go back to my old approach. Something had shifted, and so I started experimenting with this new way, this surrendered in perfect practice. Instead of my usual hour-long meditation, I would sit there until it felt complete. Sometimes, some days it was 20 minutes, some days it was 90. And instead of judging my meditation as good or bad, I would just notice what's arising with curiosity. And I remember one morning, about 2 weeks after I returned, I sat down, did my meditation, and I did this new approach, like no expectations, no striving, no judgment, just pure presence. And then something extraordinary happened. I experienced this depth of stillness and connection, and I'd been seeking this for years. And it wasn't dramatic, it wasn't flashy, it wasn't like a round of applause or lightning. It was simply a profound sense of being home, of being at peace, being exactly where I needed to be. And let me tell you, years of striving for the perfect meditation hadn't gotten me what 2 weeks of surrender had. Like, it's like I had been knocking on the door so hard that I couldn't hear the voice saying, "It's open, just walk in." You know what I mean? Oh man. But then this raises a question, like, if perfectionism blocks our progress, how do we maintain discipline and commitment without falling into that trap? How do we embrace imperfection without using it as an excuse for laziness? Because I've been there as well. Well, the answer lies in understanding the beginner's mind. Okay? Because beginner's mind, for me, created more transformation than expert's knowledge. And in Zen Buddhism, there is something called the beginner's mind. It's the attitude of openness, eagerness, lack of perceptions that we naturally have when beginners do something, right? When we are beginners at something, we have a lack of perception of things. It's just fresh. But the problem is, the more we practice meditation, the more we think we know about it. We develop expectations, preferences, judgments. We try to micromanage our meditations. We think we know what a good meditation feels like, right? We think we know that what we are supposed to be experiencing. But even Dr. Joe says true meditation happens in the unknown. It happens when we drop all of our concepts and simply experience this moment, fresh and new, as if it's for the first time. For me, this meant approaching each meditation as if I'd never meditated before. No expectations, no judgments, no comparison. I'm not comparing my meditation today to yesterday's meditation, just pure open awareness. One of my clients actually experienced this firsthand, and she came to me after years of meditation, and for her it had become mechanical and dry. Just a routine, another thing to check off, right? After working together, she embraced the beginner's mind and she started letting go of perfectionism. And she felt like a different person. She was experiencing a new sense of expansion and purpose, and she was not attached to old habits and more open to awareness. And she found easier ways to maintain a new frequency. Think about it. If you're not expecting to be your old self in meditation, guess what happens in 3D? And the difference is that she didn't learn new techniques. The difference was that she learned how to approach her practice with fresh eyes, without the burden of expertise and expectation. And so I realized surrendering my meditation expertise opened me up to deeper dimensions. And in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are a few. And when I thought I was an expert meditator, oh my God, I had very specific ideas about what meditation would be like, right? And those ideas were actually limiting my experience. But when I surrendered my expertise, when I admitted that maybe I don't know everything about meditation at all, then that's when suddenly new dimensions appeared and opened up in my life. My practice became richer, deeper, and more nuanced. So when I surrendered my expertise, it was like the door swung open, revealing the entire room. And I was at a retreat one time, not a Joe retreat, but another spiritual retreat. And one of the facilitators asked us to introduce ourselves and share a bit about our practice. When it was my turn, I was like, I've been meditating for 6 years. I practice every hour, every single day. Studied with these teachers, attended these retreats, you know what I mean? Basically establishing my meditation credentials. Like, here's my resume, right? Ha ha ha. Anyway, halfway through my little speech, I realized what I was doing. I was so attached to being seen as an advanced meditator that I couldn't even introduce myself without, waving my resume around. This is what I've done. Check this out. And so I stopped myself mid-sentence and I just started laughing. I'm like, you know what? Let me start again. The truth is, I'm a beginner. So every day, every meditation, I'm a beginner again. And it felt like a huge weight lifted off your shoulders, well, my shoulders. Because I didn't have the pressure to be an expert anymore. I didn't have to know everything. I could just be a student and be open up, be curious and be willing to learn, be open to receiving. And so that retreat turned out to be one of the most transformative experiences of my life. Not because I was doing anything differently technically, but because I had dropped all the burden of expertise and embarked on being in the freedom of being a beginner. And then I realized the shift from doing to being was transformative. Because what happens when we stop being the doer of our meditation and allow meditation to meditate us? It's kind of like a mind fuck, right? But stay with me. What does that mean for our daily practice? Because this is the most profound shift of all. Because when I stopped being the doer of my meditation, because for years I approached meditation as something I did. I was in control, or at least I thought I was. But true meditation happens when we just step out of the way. When we stop being the doer and allow ourselves to be meditated. What? When we surrender the process instead of trying to control it. It is the difference. A difference between swimming upstream and floating downstream. Like one, you're letting yourself get carried away. One is exhausting and requires constant effort. The other is effortless and natural. For me, this meant letting go of the idea that I was doing meditation. Instead, I started seeing it as something that was happening through me, not by me. And so this brings us to the next point, which is what happened when I finally allowed meditation to meditate me. Because when we let go of control, when we surrender to the process, something amazing happens. Meditation deepens naturally. It unfolds according to its own intelligence, not according to our plans or expectations. Oh my God. That is the difference between trying to open up a flower bud with your fingers versus just like providing sunlight, putting it in sunlight and watering it and allowing it to open in its own time. One approach damages the flower, the other allows its natural beauty to unfold. And for me, this meant trusting the process completely. Trusting that if I simply showed up with presence and openness, the meditation will unfold exactly as it needed to be. And I promise you, when I integrated these shifts, my meditation practice transformed from an exhausting effort to an effortless, unfolding rejuvenation. I stopped trying so hard to be a good meditator and simply allowed myself to be present with whatever wanted to rise. The wild part about all this is that I'd been seeking, the things that I'd been seeking just started to happen naturally. Not because I was meditating better, but because I was getting out of my own way. Oh my God. 3 weeks after embracing this, flawed approach, a relationship that had been strained for months, like with someone that I loved deeply, suddenly healed. It was like the universe saying, oh my God, finally you're out of your own way. Oh, thank God I can clean this mess that you've done. Within 2 months, opportunities that I'd been struggling to manifest just started appearing effortlessly. Like ideas started to flow to me easily, synchronicities increased. Life just began to flow with ease and grace and less like a struggle. But the most craziest shifts wasn't the external stuff. It was this deep sense of peace and acceptance that I developed. The freedom from having to do everything perfectly. The joy of being a perpetual beginner rather than an expert. Man, this liberation, it's just amazing. However, the ultimate truth that I discovered was that meditation isn't about perfecting a technique. It's about getting out of your own way. It's not about becoming an expert, but it's about maintaining that openness, that childlike manner, being curious and open like a beginner. It's like I'd been holding my breath for 6 years, trying to breathe perfectly, when all I needed to do was exhale and allow that natural breath to flow. The key wasn't trying harder, but it was surrendering more deeply. But now I'm curious, which one of those resonated with you the most? Are you experiencing this trap of perfectionism in your practice? Now, what happens when you approach meditation with the beginner's mind? I'd love to know how you do that. If you do that, in the comment section below. And please, if you found value in this, give this a share with someone who might need to hear this message as well. Because, come on, stop getting caught up in perfectionism as well. Because sometimes the simplest shifts create the biggest breakthroughs. And remember, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect to be transformed. In fact, embracing your imperfection might be the very key that unlocks your deepest transformation.